It's a new Enough Already podcast, and we're back with Hillary talk. Tracy, what did we talk about?
Yeah, we talked about how we were Nostradamuses last week and predicted her getting knocked out. And all the various lies that were spread over the weekend to cover up. And the end result is she's got pneumonia, and so does everybody that's been around her.
And she doesn't drink water.
No, not a fan.
Not a fan of water. Likes air conditioning, which I would think would get her in trouble with environmentalists.
Sure, and that could be the root of the pneumonia, you know.
That's true.
We'll never know, though.
We'll never know.
Even though she's the most transparent candidate in the history of the world, we still have not seen anything more than a handwritten note, a hand-typed note from her doctor saying that she's in excellent health.
But, as we talked about in the episode, she's fine because she was on the phone with Anderson Cooper.
Of course. Everything's swell. She'll be back on the trail before we know it.
What else did we talk about?
Oh, we chatted with Ashe Schow for a bit about the latest on the campus craziness and Title IX and how it's ruining everything.
And Pilates.
Yes, that too.
Remember, you can always check out the Enough Already podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, the TuneIn app. And we're on Facebook, facebook.com/Enough Already Podcast. And we have a website, Tracy.
EnoughAlreadyPodcast.com.
So I guess we should start the show.
Yeah, enough already.
I came home and I just put my face in the pillow and passed out within 2 minutes.
Sure.
I actually felt like there was something wrong. Like I was overheated. But I was kind of in a place where I was screwed because Chelsea's apartment isn't anywhere near my house. So I would have had to have gone to a hospital.
That's the worst.
Yeah. I got home, got in the air conditioning, drank some water, and I'm okay now.
So you're not opposed to drinking water?
I think we're all opposed to drinking water.
Are we?
I don't drink water.
I drink probably a gallon a day.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Well, this is why you're thin and in shape and why I'm fat and out of shape.
Why I don't pass out when it's 78 degrees outside and breezy.
Like right now I'm drinking a Powerade Zero. Which is
That's not too bad.
Bad, really, really bad.
I'm sure there's a ton of chemicals in it.
Yeah. Well, there's a ton of chemicals in the water, too. Come on, Tracy.
I know. I wondered. I wondered about that. If she knows something we do not know.
Mm-hmm. There's lead in the water, Tracy.
Yep. There's fluoride.
Yeah, there you go.
Obviously, those chemtrails have to go somewhere. I would imagine they make their way into the water table.
That's true. I mean, we have so much to talk about regarding Hillary.
Oh,
I don't know where you want to start. Well, I guess we should start from the beginning. Well, I mean, not actually the beginning.
Yeah, we don't. No.
I don't need to be boring and talk about that. But no, what happened September 11th?
We kind of have to rewind a little bit to Friday night with the basket of deplorables.
Oh, yes, you're right.
And then my understanding is that she gave that talk that was at a fundraiser. Dropped she likes to call half of Trump's supporters the basket of deplorables.
Right.
Because that seems like a normal, everyday phrase that you would just come up with, right?
She's a uniter, not a divider.
Yeah, she's standing at the Stronger Together podium. She was. And the color scheme was changed that evening. Either that or every clip I've seen is filtered. But normally that Stronger Together is on a baby blue background. But that time it was purple.
Oh, it was purple.
So I don't know who they're signaling with this stuff, but clearly it's someone.
That was focus grouped.
Sure. Absolutely. Everything is.
That's right.
That's how we ended up with Stronger Together. Yeah, so a basket of deplorables that are the litany of all things ist, right? And then I think she capped that off with saying they're irredeemable. So just total lost cause, just write everybody off. And this thrills me, of course. I love being called deplorable by somebody that's so detestable.
That's right.
Wow, lady. Like, that's a real insult coming from you, but everybody decided to run with it and say, oh, this is Romney's 47% comment all over again. And I immediately thought the binder's full of women. We're sticking people in things and getting outraged. Baskets, binders, what difference does it make?
It's nice to take a peek every once in a while inside the liberal mind.
Oh, I do it every day.
I try to avoid it at all costs because I'm spooked by it very easily. But you know damn well when she says half of his supporters, she really means half of America.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Supporters, or half of his supporters. That's how liberals think. If you are not a progressive, then clearly there's something wrong with you, and it must be one of the following. You're a racist or you're a homophobe.
You're a sexist bigot.
Right. But then she went further. Listen, there are a few of them. Probably like 3. Maybe 4 tops. And I'm not talking 4%. I mean 4 people.
Correct.
We're just scared. They want change. And we need to embrace those people, those 3 or 4 people.
Yes, we'll just find them. So here's the exact quote. This is from a transcript the LA Times has.
Are you saying I didn't just give it an exact quote?
No, but I just want to have the exact quote so that we're being accurate.
We're being fair. We're fair and balanced here at the Enough Already podcast.
So she says, and this is important because she's now come back and tried to walk this back and say it's not really half. So these start, I'm going to skip like the first 2 sentences of this paragraph. But, to be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump's supporters into what I call. So we're supposed to picture her walking around repeatedly calling, look, there's the basket of deplorables. Supporters, what I call the basket of deplorables, right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. And unfortunately, there are people like that. And he has lifted them up. He has given voice to their websites that used to have only 1,100 hits, 11,000 people, now 11 million people. I don't know if she thinks that people just live on websites. I think she means hits, obviously, right?
Well, listen, she's a technology expert.
Oh, yeah.
And she knows everything about the computer and the internet, and she's going to declare cyber war on ISIS.
Oh,
so,
no. If they hit us cyberly, she's declaring actual war on them.
Oh, I thought she said she was going to declare cyber war on
Cyber
ISIS.
attacks deserve military response.
Oh, okay.
That's not a direct quote, but that's a summation of her policies. So let me continue.
I apologize.
He tweets and he retweets their offensive, hateful, mean-spirited rhetoric. Now, some of these folks, they are irredeemable. But thankfully, they are not America. Now, here's the important part that keeps getting left out of all of this. But the other basket, and I know this because I see friends from all over America here. I see friends from Florida and Georgia and South Carolina and Texas, as well as, New York and California. But that other basket of people are people who feel that the government has let them down. The economy has let them down. Nobody cares about them. Nobody worries about what happens to their lives and their futures. And they're just desperate for change. It doesn't really even matter where it comes from. They don't buy everything he says, but he seems to hold out some hope that their lives will be different. They won't wake up and see their jobs disappear, lose a kid to heroin, feel like they're in a dead end. Those are people we have to understand and empathize with. So you're either a detestable, irredeemable, deplorable, or you're somebody that feels completely screwed over by the government and that your life has come to a dead end.
Well, look, in her mind and in the minds of progressives, you have to be at the end of your rope.
Sure.
To vote for Trump.
Correct.
That's the only reason why you would. It can't possibly be because you disagree with the progressive agenda and you look at Hillary Clinton and you say to yourself, that is a horrible, horrible person who should not be anywhere near the White House again. No, it can't be that. It's got to be people who are either racist, sexist, homophobes, or they're jobless, probably not very well educated. Their kids are on heroin. And Trump, in their minds, is their only hope. That has to be it. And they're probably on heroin too, Tracy.
Of course. Help me, Obi Trump Kenobi. You're our only hope.
It's amazing. You see these Trump rallies where 16, 17, 18,000 people are showing up. I didn't realize that a lot of them apparently are on heroin. I didn't realize we had such a heroin epidemic in this country.
A huge epidemic of functional heroin addicts. It is possible, apparently.
Wow.
I guess it's a proper combo of heroin and some kind of an amphetamine.
And listen, look at it this way, too. They are desperate heroin addicts, okay, that are looking to vote for Donald Trump. What they should be doing is looking for the warm embrace of Hillary Clinton. She's empathetic. She'll understand you.
But just a word to the wise, if you're going to do that, put on a SARS mask first. Do not embrace that woman without proper sanitation and preventative measures taken.
Have we gotten the Enough Already podcast medical team on this yet to figure out exactly what she has?
Oh, no. Well, we can. We can put them into action. We need to find them first.
It's true. Oh, I hope they work for Groupons. Not much of a budget here. But
this happened Friday night.
Right.
Right? And then she called in from her death sickbed last night to Anderson Cooper. That was Monday. And she claims that she went to the doctor after giving this speech.
Yes.
On Friday evening. And during that doctor's visit, which was to check up on that cough that she's had for 6 months, maybe longer.
I think it's been longer than that, hasn't it?
Yeah. Okay. 2 decades. I'll have to get with our medical team.
Right. Exactly.
I'm sure that I'm right. But went to check up on that cough that we were told was just allergies. And that's when she was diagnosed with pneumonia. Mm-hmm. And we don't find this out until Sunday, late afternoon, early evening about this alleged pneumonia diagnosis.
Right. And we never would find out if it weren't for someone walking through New York with their cell phone camera.
Right. So Sunday morning, she goes to the 9/11 memorial service in Manhattan, down at Ground Zero. She's there for maybe an hour or so. Mm-hmm. And she gets really hot. Oh, and this is a new piece to the puzzle. I don't know if you've heard this. She was standing with Chucky Schumer, and he leaned over and said, "Hey, guess what? I just had pneumonia." This is according to her and what she told Anderson Cooper.
Right.
And she didn't say, "Oh, my God, me too," which is what you would think somebody with pneumonia would say.
Well, not if you're Clinton.
True. But Chuck could be trusted, can he?
Oh, of course. I don't know. Can he be trusted? I mean, I'm sure he's the type of cat. He loves being in front of a camera.
That's
if
true.
He had breaking news, he may run to CNN to say, "Oh my God, I just had this discussion with Hillary Clinton. I have pneumonia. But she has pneumonia."
Let's think about this for a second. If the Democrats somehow take back control of the Senate, he's set to become majority leader. Mm-hmm. But he could become president pro tempore, which I believe is number 4 in the line of succession. So if they let typhoid Hillary in there, invite Paul Ryan over for a meeting day one.
Right.
Chuck's supposed to be there, but something comes up. Chuck's pneumonia flares up. He can't go.
Yeah.
So it's just Kane, Hillary, and Paul Ryan, and then they are all out of the way. President Chuck Schumer, everyone.
There you go.
So anyway, she claims she felt overheated. Mm-hmm. I've seen several people that have tweeted out, here was the weather report that day. And it's funny because you hear conflicting stories, right? If it's lefty journalists on the news, they're like, it was really hot. There was no wind. And then you see people like our favorite Fox Business person, Kennedy, said she was out that day. It was breezy and a little bit chilly.
She's wearing a sweater.
Yeah. Matty Iglesias had tweeted out, I love this. I believe, is he at Vox now?
I think so.
he had tweeted something about, I was out with my son this morning and it was hot and humid and I could totally understand why this would happen. And then he followed up with some ridiculous tweet. I'm trying to pull it off of my my Twitter feed because I had to share it. It was so stupid. You don't see people overheating in Canada and Sweden where they have single payer health care and less inequality. Nothing about geography in there.
Oh, my God.
And I'm imagining that people over there do overheat because I've remembered this from fighting with people that insist that we're living in the hottest times ever and all these things. In 2003, there was a heat wave in Europe. 70,000 people died. Wow. Single payer does not stop the sun.
Well, on top of it, too, it's not like we're talking about some street person.
Right. Less inequality. No, she's got a private team that travels with her.
So private, we can't even hear what they say about her health.
Right. Yes, and the press pool started traveling with her last week. Mm-hmm. So they apparently, she was able to get a doctor's visit in without them noticing, and she was also able to leave the ceremony on Sunday morning without them having any idea that she dipped out, which I don't understand how that's possible.
I don't either.
She travels with a phalanx, and she was wearing a bright blue pantsuit on a day when most men are in black suits.
I know that they tried to keep it low-key and the candidates weren't going to speak at the ceremony, but I would think that they would put them in a seat where they would be seen by a lot of people.
Sure. And she's standing with Chuck. You think Chuck is hiding from a camera?
Right.
So a blonde-headed woman in a blue outfit sneaks away from a memorial service where most people are probably wearing black, with a whole cadre of folks with her. Nobody from the media is aware. Her press pool, nope, don't know. So the only reason we know what happened is because some gentleman was walking the street, and I'm a little bit confused as how he was able to get this video.
Yeah.
It seems a little odd to me that they wouldn't have boxed out more, but maybe the Secret Service is so sick of having to protect this sick woman.
Right.
And they probably don't even know what she has.
Listen, from what I've heard from the liberal left, it was 115 degrees that day.
Sure.
In New York City, and maybe those poor Secret Service guys, they're dressed in black suits, like the sunglasses. Maybe they were overheated too.
It's possible.
It's 120 degrees that day.
I'll grant them that, but there's a gentleman standing in the one film, and I've seen two different videos, and I have difficulty telling if it's the same video and just cut into a tighter shot or not. And then I've been arguing with people on Twitter for like 3 days that there's another video that they're like, oh, this is another angle. It's like, no, it's not. This is called a mirror image angle. And you can tell because the car is driving the opposite direction. And the building that you see on the right and the other one is on the left. Yeah. This is a mirror. Yeah, it looks like you're seeing different things. And it's probably a smart thing to do if you're trying to capture all the stuff that's going on, to take a look at it from that angle. But it's not a new video. It's the same video. So, yeah, I'm a little bit, and I haven't seen anybody ask that guy. I haven't seen him interviewed, but he was smart enough to say, hey, if you want to license my footage, you got to call me. I don't know if you saw that. He said, email me. Sorry. If you want to use my footage, email me. And I don't even know if he has a leg to stand on legally. We'll have to get our legal team on this because he put it out on Twitter. So, I mean, it's basically anybody can rip it off your timeline, dude, which is what most of the outlets did. They just embedded. Right. But the news wanted to start showing it. And I saw this happen almost in real time. So it's like 9:30, 11, 10 o'clock maybe that this started breaking, and I saw this video. And it was on the news. It was on CNN at least within an hour and a half, 2 hours, and they were actually showing the video. But the AP had put out a tweet. We've had to pull down that video because we don't have the license. Not we didn't pay for it, mind you, because I saw what's his name, Prison Planet, Paul Watson over at InfoWars said, hey, we ended up having to pay. We had to pull the footage and then we had to pay for it, but we want it, so we're paying for it. So if InfoWars can scratch together the dough, I think AP can too, but it serves their purposes not to have it.
Right.
So there you have her leaned up against what I'm told is a stanchion, I guess.
A stanchion?
I believe that's what it's called. I might be making that up, but it's a post.
Let's go with post.
A metal post. Leaning up against it, looking completely locked up.
Right.
And she's got Secret Service on her left. Some woman who's yet to be identified. People are speculating that she's her nurse because there's pictures of her and it looks like she's taking Hillary's pulse and also doing some finger squeezing tests.
On that meat claw of a hand she has?
Yes. And the internet tells me that those are neurological tests. So, of course, the internet is to be believed at all times.
That's right.
Then one of the things that I also find interesting is there's another Secret Service agent that enters from her left and crosses in front of her, and he purposely gives her a wide berth and doesn't make eye contact. Like, it looks like he's purposely not making eye contact. And I don't know if that's a Clinton rule, like, don't look at me in the eyes.
I'm sure it probably
if you're the
is.
help. And then he comes around to her right side, and at that point, she starts shaking like crazy, and then comes forward, and her ankles go completely limp, and they're dragging her toes across the ground. And you cannot tell, but it appears that she falls, and then they just chuck her in the van, and she then is off the radar for an hour and a half. This is when we start getting stories about the heat. Mm-hmm. Then she emerges from Chelsea's.
9 o'clock in the morning in New York City in September.
Yes. And I have to say, I was in New York on Friday and Saturday, and it was hot as hell. It was disgustingly hot.
At 9 o'clock in the morning?
No. By 1.
Yeah.
But I didn't go outside at 9, so I can't say. But I do know that it was cooler on Sunday.
But even if it were a little bit warmer than normal on a September 11th morning in New York City, I think it's safe to say that there were people at that memorial who were older than Hillary. And it wasn't like teenagers at a Beatles concert in the early 60s where people were dropping like flies.
Right.
It was just Yoko Hildo.
Yep. Yeah, we should contact our law enforcement people and find out how many other fainting incidents there were today.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like we were prescient last week titling our episode, She Got Knocked the Fuck Out. Because that is definitely a loss of consciousness. I have talked to medical semi-professionals about this. I said, is there any reason that her feet would do what they did? Because like her legs just don't support her. Mm-hmm. And when your ankles turn like that, you can tell that there's no life in that body anymore. And like Meghan McCain got in trouble with Chris Cillizza, of all people, for tweeting, if my father had his lifeless body thrown into a van and carted away, you guys would be losing your minds. And he's like, oh, lifeless was just his response. And it's like, look up lifeless, idiot. The definition includes people that have fainted and lost consciousness and control of their limbs and such. I mean, that's my definition, but it's in there. So, yeah. So then she, no idea where she is. Somehow she didn't go to the hospital. And I believe it's the New York Daily News has a piece saying that they specifically avoided going to the hospital because what happens if you go to the hospital, Fingers?
Well, you're going to see medical personnel who inevitably will spill the beans to reporters regarding Hillary's health. But she didn't need to go to a hospital, Tracy, because she had the Chelsea clinic right around the corner. And on top of that, a lot of people don't know this. When she has one of her spells, apparently air conditioning is her EpiPen.
And water.
Yes. But she doesn't drink water, which makes sense because she's a witch.
That's true.
She needs to stay away from water.
Slate, ever on the case, had a piece that came out mid-afternoon on Monday the 12th titled, Hillary Clinton Apparently Hates Water. Or does she?
Uh-oh.
So Politico had some big, long, what they call the TikTok of Hillary's day. And in there was a little tidbit about her not drinking enough water. Mm-hmm. And so Slate comes back and says, but hold on. In 2008, Hillary did drink tons of water. That's what she told Katie Couric, at least. So then they have all the 4 links to Hillary talking about how much water she drinks.
This literally is Watergate all over again.
This is so ridiculous. So I don't know, in the missing 90 minutes where after she emerges from Chelsea's, infects a little child on the street for photo op purposes.
Right.
I don't know if at that time her staff realized that the video was out. They had to have, right?
You would think so, but with all these missteps in the last really couple of months, who knows?
There had to be somebody calling one of them and saying, "Uh-oh, there's the video out. We can't get it down. We missed our opportunity to kill that guy before he uploaded to Twitter. What are we going to do?" So it's really difficult to tell because it took until about, I don't know, 5 or 6 o'clock on Sunday evening for them to be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, she got diagnosed with pneumonia on Friday." That's what this is all about.
How can anyone believe a word this woman says about anything?
Well, she had the nerve to go on Anderson Cooper from her sick deathbed and say that she's fine, just fine, laughed about it, and then said, "I've released more information about myself than any candidate in the history of the world throughout the universe forever and ever." And they're pinning all of this because all day Sunday, the intercut with the 9/11 remembrances was talk about how much her doctors released versus Trump's doctor. Both of them have just released handwritten paragraphs. There's no charts. There's nothing on top of that. And Hillary's doctor's note is from 2015. So you're telling me your health hasn't changed at all in that time period, even though we've all watched you cough your way across the country?
Can I play devil's advocate here for 1 second?
Please.
Regarding the water? I have talked to women who have blown child before, who said after they had a kid, their bladder basically went to hell.
Sure.
And, if they laughed too hard, they may pee their pants.
Yes.
Which, it goes further than just the bladder. But could it be, being that this woman now, she had a kid, allegedly. I've never seen the photo of Hillary pregnant. So do we really know she had that kid? We don't know.
We don't know.
I'm just asking questions. But let's for the benefit of the doubt, and to sound sane, and to make people realize I was just joking, let's say she had the kid. Okay. And now she is what did we say she is? She's 97 years old.
Yes, she's actually 68. She'll be 69 in October.
Okay, she's a 69-year-old woman who blew child 30 some odd years ago. She has the gout, pneumonia, a whole we got Parkinson's disease. She maybe even have childhood diabetes. We don't know. Just asking questions. Is it possible that she doesn't want to drink a lot of water because if she does drink a lot of water, she'll either pee her pants or she'll have to go to the bathroom somewhere in the neighborhood of 72 times a day? Is it possible?
It's possible. But to me, it's irrelevant because she wasn't dehydrated. That doesn't just happen to you if you're dehydrated.
It doesn't?
I don't believe so. And you can take electrolytes and stuff like that.
But if you're a 98-year-old woman...
I understand. I'm going to tell you a quick little story.
Okay.
About a film that I worked on where they decided we were going green. And going green meant we weren't going to have water bottles. So you couldn't have any plastic bottles. They gave us reusable, washable, hard plastic bottles that were personalized, which would have been fine, except for the fact that this was a movie about fly fishing. And so we were spending all day standing in a river. And it's very difficult to climb out of the river and go fill up your water bottle.
Right.
And because we had those big Gatorade things like they do on the sidelines at football games and stuff like this, full of water. So I was throwing a royal fit because as the first assistant director, my job was to run the whole thing and make sure it goes well, but also crew safety falls to me and the set medic. Mm-hmm. Everybody on that show got dehydrated. So what we did was stocked up on electrolytes. Mm. And you can just take those and it helps you stay hydrated. You mix them with a little bit of water and you're good to go.
Well, see, I thought in that situation what you're supposed to do is have a bunch of Suburbans and other large SUVs right by the river, and you throw people who are dehydrated into the Suburban and let the EpiPen air conditioning hit them, and then they would be better.
Yes. We didn't have that capability because, like I said, we were green.
Well, so yeah, Al Gore's green, and he has Suburbans. It's raining Suburbans.
No, this was
camp.
Legitimately trying to be green.
Oh,
yes. Even though it was silly, and plastic water bottles can be recycled, and they're already in existence, so you're not stopping anything. But reason does not get through to these people. So they would have rather had people having insane leg cramps all day, complaining, getting fatigued. Nobody passed out though.
Were you all wearing some sort of awareness ribbons at the time?
No, we were wearing waders. I was up to right above my waist in a river all day long.
We should have a Hillary Health awareness ribbon.
We really should. That's a good idea.
Have if we could get a graphic artist on this, if we could turn the Mr. Yuck sticker into put Hillary's face on it, have her green, put it on a ribbon.
I think we should just Pepe as Hillary. Because did you know, Fingers, that Pepe the frog, the little green guy with the attitude that's been around on the internet for I don't know over a decade, is a symbol of white nationalism. I kid you not. There's a Breathless article in The Atlantic about this. I saw Chris Hayes talking about this last night with their friend AJ Delgado. They're trying to make this a thing. It is so ridiculous.
Well, look, you make that a thing. It keeps people from talking about other things.
Sure.
Like Obamacare completely tanking.
Yes, Hillary completely tanking. It's bad. It's bad.
But to go back to Hillary, it's very nice to know that instead of going to a hospital, and I believe the hospital they would have had to have gone to was Bellevue.
Yes.
Which we all agree.
It's not a good look.
Yeah, Hillary should be in Bellevue. But instead, she went to the Chelsea Clinic, and whatever disease she has, whether it's Parkinson's, childhood diabetes, the gout, whatever she has, all she needs is a little time with the grandkids, Tracy, and she feels better.
Yeah,
and then
we pep her right up.
Yeah, she leaves the apartment an hour and a half later, and I don't know if you've taken a look on the Twitters and the Facebooks, the conspiracy theories.
Oh, the body, what they're calling a body double, which is actually a photo double. They're two different things.
Yeah, you've got people running around thinking that Hillary Clinton, because she's very Saddam Hussein-like, has 7 or 8 different Hillary Clintons walking around.
Yes.
Which is completely ridiculous because as we all know, it was an android, not a body double. And there's 6 or 7 Hillary androids walking around.
No, I think they've transplanted her brain. I do believe she's gone full Vader at this point. We knew it was coming, the singularity. She's just the first. But no, I actually read a really great article debunking all of that nonsense and going here's this piece of supposed evidence. Here's why you're stupid if you believe it. And I think that's the kind of thing that I put right in the lap of the Clintons. I think they started that.
Absolutely. Why they can't be transparent about anything. About the Clinton Foundation.
No, Fingers, how dare you? That woman has released more information, her tax returns for 40 years, hundreds of thousands of emails, a note from her doctor.
What was I thinking?
I don't know what you're thinking. Everybody knows more about her than anything, and we know nothing about Donald Trump, according to her. But he went and had a physical last week. He's going on, I believe, Dr. Oz's show on Thursday, where he will do a P90X routine, some Taibo. He's going to do Hillary's yoga moves from her lost emails.
Look, and of course the cries of sexism will be coming from everywhere.
Oh, they already are.
Yeah, look, if this were Donald Trump, and he had a fainting spell, and he had fallen down in the past, and he had a concussion, and he had a blood clot in the brain, if he had childhood diabetes, if he had Parkinson's disease, if he had the gout, people would be asking these same questions, except they would be amplified by a media who would actually report on it.
Absolutely.
Instead of burying it.
And we've watched the media get treated like a battered spouse for 8 years by Obama.
Yes.
You'd think they would wise up by now, especially if they believe this pneumonia story. And we're subsequently told, oh, guess what? A whole bunch of her staffers also had it.
Right.
I don't know if you saw that or not, but
No.
her staffers have had it, including Robbie Mook, who I believe is the communications director. Yeah, one of them had to be rushed to the hospital. They've been so sick. So if I'm the press that's traveling with her, and Andrea Mitchell is one of them, and she was kind of a little bit testy yesterday. She went on Morning Joe to discuss this. But she's been on that plane with her.
Right.
And remember the orange rolling incident from last week? I think it was Scott Adams that had tweeted about that. And he was just like, hey, here's your orange. And what does it say? I just gave you guys all pneumonia.
Did someone Photoshop a medical mask on that orange?
Well, you've seen the Photoshop, right, of the press with the masks that came out last week. I'm like re-upping this one because it's now totally on. But at some point, if you're believing her nonsense, and they still haven't identified which type of pneumonia it is, because some pneumonia is contagious. Which is the first question that I thought when they said pneumonia. I was like, is it contagious? Hi, WebMD. What do you have to say?
Well, I thought that with some of these, with pneumonia and bronchitis, I thought that once you started taking antibiotics, you weren't contagious. But I base that on just watching a lot of MASH.
Sure.
So I don't know.
But she didn't get diagnosed until Friday night, we're told. So she was flying around on that plane with them all last week, rolling these oranges. And we know that she doesn't cover her mouth when she coughs. Coughs directly into microphones. So was that orange safe?
No.
I don't know. And was that little girl safe that she hugged on the street? I think my favorite meme that I've seen of this so far, I mean, there are a lot of them, but there's one that's a side by side of her and the little girl and Harambe and the little boy. And it said both of these people, which child was in more danger?
Have you ever had pneumonia?
No.
Okay. I never had pneumonia. I'd had bronchitis before. Severe case of bronchitis. And the difference between bronchitis and pneumonia is bronchitis just causes an inflammation in the air passages, while pneumonia, it causes fluid in the lungs due to the infection. I know with bronchitis, I could, and I had bronchitis when I was 15 years old. And I would get winded doing little things, just walking down the street, I would get winded. And I wasn't a 104-year-old woman running for president of the United States. I'm sorry, I'm not buying the pneumonia story. And I don't know how anyone who has watched the Clintons since the 90s would buy this story, because we would not be hearing about this at all. This pneumonia bit. If that video hadn't surfaced of her being thrown into the EpiPen van with the magic air conditioning and Gatorade, which apparently brings her back to life.
Sure.
There's no way a 69-year-old woman can run around running for president, give speeches with pneumonia. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it.
Well, she said that she didn't listen to her doctor.
Well, I
she
buy
was
that.
told, okay, well, here's my thing then. We're told that you have excellent judgment.
Right?
And that you listen to experts. You know, I don't know if you saw this. Vox put out a video about Hillary last Thursday or Friday, maybe, with Ezra Klein and his lisp, which I don't know what that is about people that have speech impediments getting on camera all the time, but it drives me insane. Fix that. Anyway, and so he made the case for her that she is a listener. That's her strength. And the way that our political system is set up, it's geared towards male strengths, like talking in front of crowds and such. But then there's Hillary. And he's like, I interviewed like 13 people, and this just kept coming up over and over again. And I thought, this is just ridiculous. And then I thought, maybe there's something to it. She's just an incredible listener. Well, she didn't listen to her doctor. Now, did she? The medical expert tells her, hey, old lady, you got to stay in bed for 5 days and rest. And she thought, yeah, nah.
Can anyone point to at any point in Hillary Clinton's track record and show me evidence that she's a good listener, that she listens to people, that she listens to experts, that she doesn't listen to anybody? It's everyone's fault but hers if there's a mistake. She doesn't listen to anyone because you don't listen to anyone, whether it's regarding health advice or policy advice, when you are the smartest woman on the planet.
Right. Even after you've had brain damage.
Right.
Or just a blood clot sitting on your brain or between your skull and your brain, however this all works. Which you know what, full medical records would include the MRI maybe?
Yes.
For that? I don't know. A list of drugs you're on, which I guess we've partially seen because we know about the Coumadin.
Right. And as far as I can tell from what we've heard from Dr. Phil.
Drew.
Or Dr. Drew, too.
The now totally vindicated Dr. Drew.
Yes. I mean, they may as well be bleeding her with leeches by putting her on Coumadin for a long period of time.
Well, as I said last week, it turns you into a hemophiliac. It's a blood thinner.
Yeah.
So if they had let her hit the ground on Sunday, she could have bled out. Yeah. But Fingers, you'll be happy to know that you're not the only one that thinks something else is going on. Are you ready for this?
Go on.
Bennett, I'm probably going to butcher his last name, but I'm going to try. First name Bennett, last name Omalu. The forensic pathologist who has made the NFL so uncomfortable with his discovery of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, easy for me to say, in the brains of deceased players, suggests that Hillary Clinton's campaign be checked for possible poison after her collapse. So this is the guy, Will Smith played him in the movie Concussion.
Yeah, I sometimes when I'm driving down the street and I'm all by myself, I do my imitation of Will Smith as a doctor going, tell the truth.
So he tweeted, and I thought this was a joke because I had seen people retweeting it and I didn't realize who this guy was because I didn't see that Concussion movie. This is a tweet. I must advise the Clinton campaign to perform toxicological analysis of Ms. Clinton's blood. It is possible she is being poisoned. And who would be poisoning her, you might ask, Fingers? Do you have a guess? Yes!
Yes!
Well, you know, Putin has been linked to poisoning plots before, and he is KGB, so of course.
Why would the Russians be poisoning Hillary? She let them buy $135 million of our uranium?
Sure.
Was it 135?
Well, no, they locked up 20% or something of the world's uranium by buying rights to mine in the United States under her tenure at the State Department. Yeah.
And they paid, what, $135 million for it, didn't they?
I can't remember what the number was. Well, it wasn't directly him either, you have to remember.
Of course.
It all runs through underlings.
Right. But then there was a nice, sizable donation to the Clinton Foundation.
Of course.
But
not how all this works. No, but he's trying to kill her. Well, this has to, they've hacked the DNC. The Russians are screwing with our voting machines. So if you're going to make that your conspiracy, then they need to be everywhere at all times, screwing up everything.
Wow.
This is just so delicious to me, and it's just going to keep getting more insane. So she's benched right now. and they can't leave any money on the table. So Bill is on his way out. He's probably already there to the West Coast to hit the big time fundraisers that she was supposed to do this week.
Well, and let's face it, they would rather see Bill anyway.
I guess. I mean, he's not all there either anymore.
No, but at least he could still give a speech, and even though he's a rapist, people still are, gravitate to him because of his magnetic personality. But I'll tell you what, I've been listening to No One Left to Lie To.
Yes.
The Christopher Hitchens book about the Clintons, released right around the year 2000.
I thought it was in 98 or 99.
May have been 99 because he does, unless they added something to it afterwards. They went back and did what do they call it when they do that? They reissue the book and they put bonus
content
in the book. He was talking about the 2000 campaign and some dust-ups that McCain and Bush got into, and someone asking then Vice President Al Gore if there was a rapist in the White House. And Al Gore really didn't answer the question, which is telling. But in the No One Left to Lie To book by Christopher Hitchens, there is a chapter called Is There a Rapist in the White House? And he brings up 3 different stories from 3 different women that date back into the late 70s, early 80s. 3 women who were liberals who did not come forward and blow the story up for everyone to hear, but in fact really kept quiet about it because they had lives and they were getting married and they didn't want the spotlight on them. But in all 3 instances with these 3 women, it was the same MO with Clinton. He would force himself on these women. He would bite their faces.
Yeah, their lip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Jesus. It's easy to forget how horrible this man is.
He's a super predator.
And then you have, the left, they just want to say, oh, it's just about sex. It's just about sex. Well, it's not just about sex. Okay, yes. If we're talking adultery, it happens all the time. This is rape. This is supposed to be something you're against.
Everybody's supposed to be against it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a heinous crime. It's disgusting, and he's a pig. And nobody cares.
Not if you have a D after your name. You can apparently rape women. You can leave a woman in a car that's under 10 feet of water.
Yeah, you can also steal a whole bunch of money and funnel it to your family's charity, which I don't know if you saw this, but there's a new report out that John Kerry's State Department funneled millions to his daughter's nonprofit.
Jesus. Well.
This is in the Daily Caller last night. It broke. More than $9 million of State Department money has been funneled through the Peace Corps to a nonprofit started and run by Secretary of State John Kerry's daughter.
Oh, why would you ask questions about this, Tracy? I'm sure that John Kerry's daughter just wants to do good work. She's probably trying to cure AIDS in Africa, and here you are.
I know.
Being a sexist woman hater, questioning the motives of the Kerrys. I mean,
why the Kerrys need to take public money, taxpayer dollars, to fund their stupid phony baloney charities. You're telling me, isn't he one of the richest people?
Yes, but I'm sure she flies coach.
Of course.
I'm sure that for lunch every day they, order Subway or Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
They aren't eating, they aren't being high on the hog with the food. They aren't flying first class. I mean, it's not the Clinton Foundation, Tracy.
Well, we don't even know.
Yet. Oh, that's fun.
She pulled down a salary from this organization for the first time in 2014. $140,000 for working 30 hours a week.
We're in the wrong business.
Yeah, we got to get in the political grift. These people are just so revolting.
I got to pick the right one, the right lib, and walk up, Uncle John.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could always go to Harry Reid.
Yeah.
I mean, what is he, blind in one eye now? You just stand on that side. We still have not been warned as a public, which I think we're entitled to, which exercise band is so faulty that you'll shoot your eye out with it.
The exercise band's name was Vito.
I don't know. He had some problems with the Chinese, I think. Remember, they were scamming visas.
Yeah.
For Chinese businessmen to come and build those solar panels that cook birds at a rate of between 2 and 10 an hour, just dropping out of the sky they just go right on the rotisserie racks at the nearest. I'm trying to think of what the hell the supermarket chain is out there, Albertsons.
Well, look, Harry Reid is what? He's another guy that's like 117 years old.
Yes.
He got punched in the face. I mean, he had an exercising accident. And he had that black eye. I believe he got medical advice from Rand Paul, if I'm not mistaken.
He is an optometrist.
Yes, about his eye. And he's from Nevada. So I have to believe that when the exercise band punched him in the eye repeatedly and knocked him out,
yes,
there's a good possibility, and I'm basing this on absolutely nothing, that he probably had a concussion.
Sure.
And he is from Nevada. I'm assuming every once in a while he goes back.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any stories on Harry Reid passing out? Of getting a little dizzy out there in the heat of Nevada?
No, but I was
Planting
treated
in a
to...
van?
Last night I watched Chris Hayes because AJ was on. And she's pretty stellar in these situations, so she was great. And then I kind of stopped paying attention for a little while. I caught Ta-Nehisi Coates at the end, who of course thinks, yes, at least half of Trump supporters are deplorable, because that's his whole shtick. And he gets guilty whites to give him a ton of money. And it was funny because Chris Hayes presented the same evidence to both AJ and Ta-Nehisi to say, but you don't think that this means that people are racist? Like, they did some poll back in the spring, and they asked people if they think that blacks are more violent than whites. And if you said yes, and more than 50% in this survey said yes, and I think it was supposed to be of Trump supporters, and AJ refused to engage with this because she's like, I don't know where that poll came from. I don't know what the questions are. I don't know how they were phrased. So that turns into, oh, you're denying the truth. Really? Okay, yeah, I'm denying the truth of these people's opinions, that you're not telling me where it came from, whatever. But to me, the question is, well, have you seen the crime stats? I mean, if you look at the crime stats, like, this is just objectively math, right? So this is as black and white as it gets as far as what's true and what's not in these things. And we can fight about the causes and all this stuff. But blacks commit a higher proportion of violent crime. So is it really racist?
To say that.
I know, but is it racist to just point to math? And
Yes.
that reminds me, I can't remember. I saw Gavin had tweeted this last week that he had just said that it's going to be only a matter of time before we find out that math is racist. And there was actually a CNN Money story saying math is racist.
Well, there you go.
Because looking at the statistics and they prove out certain things, then it has to be racism. Math is racist when we look at it, when we look at facts and data derived by doing mathematics. It's really unbelievable. So after Chris Hayes ends, the beginning of Rachel Maddow's show. What did Rachel take me through last night? We went down a fond memory lane of all the presidents and men who have had health issues.
Of course.
So I got to relive George Bush choking on a pretzel, hitting his head. Here's the picture.
Yeah.
As if that's similar at all, or as if they lied about it. I mean, I remember immediately they're like, he choked on a pretzel and passed out and hit his head. No cover up, no bullshit explanation. No, he disappears for hours and hours. Then there's George Sr. throwing up, which was awesome. You remember that one, right?
Oh, yeah, in Japan. And then they had a monkey dressed in a suit that would imitate Bush throwing up.
But that was food poisoning or something, wasn't it?
Yes, but the weird thing about that was after he threw up on the floor, he got up and then he raised his fist up in the air. like he did something. Like, yeah, I don't know if I'm be raising my fist up in the air. I guess you're trying to show everyone you're okay, but you just blew chunks all over the floor in Tokyo. I don't know.
I don't know. This is why you don't eat sushi.
Yeah.
And then it was, I can't remember who, Bill Daley. Clinton appointed him to be some cabinet secretary or something like that. And they're standing at the ceremony where they're announcing this. And Bill Richardson's at the podium because he was also appointed to be something. And he's talking and Bill Daley's over his shoulder. And all of a sudden you see Daley go down. And it's
Bill
amazing.
Bradley or Bill Daley?
Bill Daley.
Oh.
Bill Daley passed out.
Okay.
Just cold. Face first, head down into the crowd at this ceremony. And it's amazing to see that Richardson doesn't even leave the podium to express concern. That's what I was looking at. I'm like, oh, wow, what an asshole. He didn't even make a move. And like Bill Clinton runs in and it's like, yo, he's okay, y'all. I think he just passed out. It's like, really? We all saw it. He got right up afterwards. And then we were on to FDR.
Oh,
so this is nothing.
They skipped over JFK.
It might have been in there. I got sick of the smug, so I had to switch. And I was just like, what is this? This is the same garbage as, well, Colin Powell did it too, so it doesn't really matter. I was like, you're missing the key point in this, which is that nobody lied about what happened to them.
Right.
And the only reason we know about this is because some brave, whoever took that video, God bless him. And I'm not big in saying that, but I hope that he stays protected because that was balls.
Yes.
To sit there and do that right in the face of the Secret Service guys. And he must have been stealthy about it. But if not for that, we would never have known any of this. Not that we know anything, but we're given some kind of truth, in air quotes, about what's going on with her. So I don't know, Fingers. I mean, we're 2 weeks out from the debate, right? It was 2 weeks
maybe
from last night. Yeah. If she coughs on that stage, done. Done. They have to be in full panic mode.
Oh, absolutely. And if we go back to what I said earlier, that she can't drink any water because she has to pee 60 times an hour.
Well, also, apparently, if we buy into she has Parkinson's, which I'm almost totally sold on at this point, but I'm not a doctor. Right. So I just listen to internet people, and that's what they tell me. And I've read some of the symptoms and such. They have difficulty swallowing. So I understand. But then she needs to be hooked to an IV bag at all times, which is not a good look.
Well, maybe that's why she wears those house coats. She actually has an IV attached to her at all times.
Well, one of the things I did hear, which I can believe, is that she might have been wearing a Kevlar vest.
Yes.
Underneath all of that, which makes sense, and it's probably hot. But nobody else was passing out.
No.
That we know of.
We need to find that out. Hey, you ready for Ashe Schow?
I am.
Ashe. By the way, Ashe, the other day, was tweeting out photos of her getting ready to go to the gym to do Pilates. What are Pilates? Because to me, that sounds like the disease Hillary has. Did you hear about Hillary? She's got Pilates.
It's like stretching and stuff. It's a little bit different than yoga.
It's like yoga?
There can be weights involved and things like this.
Doesn't anybody do push-ups anymore?
I do every day.
Do you?
Yeah.
How many?
I can do 30 now without stopping.
Damn. Do you do the girl push-ups or you do
No. My life's goal is to do one pull-up, which has never, ever happened. And those presidential physical fitness things they made us do in school were always such an ego crush.
Yeah.
Because we're just not made to do, women are not made to do pull-ups. We're just not.
So I always the rope and everything.
Oh, I couldn't climb that rope. Are you kidding? No. I couldn't climb the rope. I could crush on the V-sit and reach. That I killed that. I could do like 13 inches on the other side of your feet. So I felt good about that. And the sit-ups and I don't think they made you do push-ups though, did they?
I think I don't remember. High school was a long time ago, but
yes.
I don't think I've done 30 push-ups since the Clinton administration.
Oh, you should start trying it.
I probably should, because I'm fat. Should exercise, do Pilates.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, Ashe Schow is next.
Enough already!
Ashe Schow of the New York Observer, Washington Examiner is here, fresh off of her Pilates. Ash, what are Pilates? What is it?
It's it's an exercise class and type of exercise that you mostly use your body's own weight as a way to work out. There are also, some tools and little aids that you can use, but a lot of times you're just using your body's own weight.
Are there resistance bands? Because you need to be careful with those.
Harry Reid demonstrated. Yes. We didn't use them last night, but I did see them in the gym, so maybe other classes use them.
Were you terrified?
And I have used them in the past. I was more terrified. So the gym that I go to has aerial yoga classes, and I think I saw some of the objects for that hanging from the ceiling. There was just these straps, and some of them had rings, like you would do rings like gymnastics.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just tons of them hanging from the ceiling, and it looked almost like I was in some kind of meat locker, like there should have been dead cows hanging. So that was a little terrifying.
I know, you should have gone to the front desk and said, this is potentially triggering.
I know. I mean, I'm really terrified right now. I think what scared me the most was how high off the ground they were.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they're lowered for the actual class. I was just looking at it as these are really high off the ground, and yoga's already can be difficult for some people. I just see myself falling a lot if I were to try this. So I was like, this looks so dangerous. But
I would assume they lower it, because it doesn't matter how high up you are. It's not going to affect the gravitational pull on you. It doesn't make it harder the higher you go.
Right. I mean, it just makes you want to try harder because you're afraid of falling.
Yes.
But I definitely want to take the class just to see what it's all about.
Oh, best of luck.
Yeah, best of luck indeed. Hey, something's going on at Auburn. You wrote about it at the Washington Examiner. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so this young man and woman were hanging out, and he wanted her to leave, and she got so mad about this that she made up this story that he grabbed her and shoved her out and hit her head against something and damaged her legs and bruised her up and scraped her knees and all of this stuff. And so she emailed his head coach about it. He eventually got dismissed from the team that he was on. And after this happened, she finally came forward with, I was just mad at him and I made this all up. There was absolutely, he had never done anything to hurt me. She had claimed that there had been multiple instances of the past where he had done this, and she's like, those were completely made up. She said that the school seemed hell-bent on punishing him after she made her accusation, and she found that kind of odd, maybe a little frightening. But, this local news website, AL.com down in Alabama, obtained the documents from this investigation. Both the accused and the accuser waived their FERPA rights and let the documents be seen. And so it just kind of makes clear that this wasn't the school went ahead based on no evidence except her accusation. And it should have been something very easy to disprove. She claims that she should have had all 2 bloody knees, the bruised shoulder, and not above her eye, and yet she never sent them photos because she wasn't actually physically injured. And yet they went ahead and punished him and threw him off the team that he was on.
And he was a football player?
I don't really want to say. I mean, you can find out what team he played on, but there's so much of these accusations where the accused gets named, and I just think if she's not being named, then I don't want to name him. And, so I just refer to him as an athlete.
Sure. Well, it's funny to me, Ash, because reading this and the account that she gave where she talks about this has happened 2 or 3 times before, and she talks about the injuries, and then there's no proof to back any of this up. Any reasonable person would look at that and say, wait a minute. First of all, you would know exactly how many times It's either 2 or 3, not both. Not, oh, I can't remember. If you're getting hit, I think you remember these things. And then show me the evidence. Right. And it just reminded me immediately of Jackie Coakley's story that she was thrown onto a glass table and then gang raped on top of the shattered glass for hours and hours and hours.
And yet there was no evidence of this.
And
her friends didn't think she should go to the hospital despite her allegedly having this dress covered in blood.
And additionally, all the men that were supposedly on top of her or whatever, they're getting cut up too? And just enduring that?
Right.
This doesn't make any sense.
Right. But here's the thing, because in another article I wrote yesterday, we find out that the government, the federal government, Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, thinks that reason and common sense violate Title IX. So that's what we're dealing with right here. You said in Auburn you would think any reasonable person would see, oh, you claim to have these terrible injuries, yet there's no evidence of these terrible injuries. Maybe you're lying. Is not good enough under Title IX. They actually said this when finding Frostburg in violation. Let's take a step back. Any school that gets accused of violating Title IX by a student who accused somebody, that school is going to be found in violation. Political correctness, OCR is going to find something. Even if they have to contradict earlier findings at another school, they'll find something on you. And even if they have to contradict victims' advocacy groups, they'll find something on you. We saw that at Michigan State University and University of Virginia, where despite victims' advocate groups saying that the accuser should be the one to decide how to proceed, and schools need to honor that unless there's, some evidence that there might be a truly violent person on campus, right? And so at Michigan and UVA, these students were reporting things under an informal report. So they didn't want the investigation to go forward. And yet the school was found in violation of Title IX because they didn't go against their wishes and go forward. And so that also happened at Frostburg. But in addition, Frostburg was also found in violation for Title IX because their sexual harassment policy states that the rules of common sense and reason shall prevail. The standard shall be the perspective of a reasonable person within the campus community. This standard, OCR wrote, falls short of the preponderance of the evidence standard required to satisfy Title IX. So reason, common sense, or what a reasonable person would think, that's not preponderance at all. And they don't explain how it's not preponderance. Sure. They don't give any reason for that. They just say, nope, that's not preponderance, which is, yeah, it definitely is. What a reasonable person would think would put you over 50.01% or under 50.01%. Like that, it makes absolutely no sense. But as we've come to understand from OCR, reason and common sense don't matter. And they haven't for many, many years. What matters is kicking students out who have been accused. Doesn't matter what the evidence is.
And then the other thing that the Office of Civil Rights can do is they just pull federal funding. That's their punishment for this. No fines.
Right. That's never happened before because the schools have always given in. Tufts University put up a little bit of a fight because they're like, okay, we agree, we'll change our policies. And then OCR was like, you didn't do good enough. So, we're going to threaten funding. And Tufts tried to take a stand. And then, once funding is threatened, then they're like, oh, you know what, we'll just do whatever you say. And that's basically how they force these colleges to eviscerate due process rights and common sense and reason.
Well, to go back to the Auburn case briefly, I think I already know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. The woman who made these accusations, is she still on campus? Is she still a student?
Probably, yeah. Nothing goes... No, if she could... People can make false accusations all they want on college campuses. They won't be... Nothing will happen to them. I mean, nothing happened to Coakley. Despite the police getting involved, the entire school reputation being damaged. No, you can't hurt her. She's a sick individual who just needs help and love and understanding.
Crazy world we live in. Well, Tracy, you have anything else?
Well, I mean, I wanted to get Ashe's take on Hillary and pneumonia. and what the hell's going on, because, you know, you have a piece from last week about her finally holding a press conference, and that comes along with inviting the press pool to join her on the plane and travel with her now. But yet they didn't know that she went to the doctors on Friday, diagnosed with pneumonia allegedly, and they were nowhere to be found when she passed out standing up on Sunday morning, as we've all seen on that video. So what are your thoughts? What are you hearing in the bubble of the Beltway?
Well, I do have an article on this over at the New York Observer. It's up right now. You can go read it. But basically, I think this whole episode demonstrates this problem with transparency that Hillary Clinton has. I mean, if you look at the campaign's response, it was first, oh, she's overheated. And, oh, now she's feeling great. You know, she just needed to sit down for a few minutes. And then, you know, hours later, you know, the video comes out, which kind of disproves what they were saying about her being just fine. This was no big deal. She just felt a little overheated and dehydrated. No big deal. Then you see that video, and it's like, no, that's bad. Mm-hmm. And then hours later, they come out and say, oh, she was diagnosed with pneumonia on Friday. And so it just kind of shows this, like, the campaign's first response is always to lie and lie and lie until evidence comes out disproving what they're saying. And it always comes out. So that's the thing that they haven't learned, whether it was the emails or Benghazi or her health. The campaign's first response is to lie until it's disproven, and it's always disproven.
It's truly stunning. I don't know if you were following it as it broke on Sunday, watching the story change and unfold. But that video was out early-ish. It was out before noon. And it took them hours to get a response. And I pondered, like, whether or not they had actually seen it, if they were that tuned out that they didn't know the video was in, and that's why they were still pushing this. Oh, she was just overheated.
Maybe. I think that it really took a lot of campaign, you know, powwows to come up with, do we want to admit pneumonia, which I know some people don't think that's really the case, or how do we want to go about announcing it? And I think a lot of this was Hillary was never going to be able to win with the pneumonia thing. So if they had announced it Friday when it happened and canceled campaign events, well, then she would have missed 9/11. And oh my God, you can't miss a 9/11 event, right? But also, there was already all these discussions about her health in the previous weeks. So if they came out and they were the ones to admit it, then that would also be a problem. But what they did instead was allow video to occur of her doing this that's now can just be replayed and everybody can see for themselves rather than the campaign controlling the conversation, which they're trying to do, but it's gotten away with them because there's a video out.
It's truly unbelievable. And then did you catch her on Anderson Cooper last night calling in?
No.
Oh, it's stunning, Ash. It's 8 minutes of just Anderson being a little bitch and accepting everything that she says. She claims she is the most transparent candidate that's ever run for office. If you listen to her.
No.
We know everything there is to know about her.
No.
Everything. Yeah, no, it's garbage. And Anderson Cooper is such a little wimp and sat there and took it and didn't push back at all.
But what's fun is you don't see any Democrats complaining about him not, trying to call her on her lies. You know, what Matt Lauer got was not calling Trump on his lies. This is, Hillary's clearly lying about things, but there's no calls for him to fact check her.
Right. No, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. She should have listened to her doctors. She ignored their advice. She was supposed to be in bed for 5 days, but she just couldn't listen. And we've got that doctor's note from 2015. That's all we need to know.
Yeah. No, I love the idea that, like, no, she was powering through it like a strong woman. And it's just like, no, you don't power through pneumonia and risk infecting people. Like, what was she on the plane with people at a press conference playing with her grandchildren, like hugging that random girl on the street? They say, no, she's not contagious. I don't know.
We don't know.
I know. There have been some doctors that say no. Everything I've read about contagious is that usually if you're still symptomatic, you're still contagious, but I don't know.
Well, we all saw the video of her cough Cleveland speech, and she doesn't even cover her mouth.
Yeah, which is gross.
It is gross.
And now we found out, we also learned yesterday she doesn't drink water.
Right.
And then one of her aides was like, you try telling Hillary Clinton that she needs to drink water. Like, how much of a child does that sound like? Like,
exactly.
My 5-year-old won't eat vegetables. You try telling him to eat his vegetables. Like, okay. Like, you're a grown-ass woman and you won't drink water.
No, it's truly stunning.
She spits her pneumonia in water, though. I've seen footage of it.
This was just such a stupid mistake for them to make. After, saying that everybody that's questioning her health because she's hacking up a lung all over the place is a nut. And they're willing to go to the point where she passes out on camera.
Right. Well, that's dumb. But I also feel like some of that was choreographed where, look at how their response was. Each of their responses brought up so many questions. And because all those questions were being brought up, they were then able to say, look at all these ridiculous questions you're asking. You're all conspiracy theorists. And so now anybody who questions anything can just be called a conspiracy theorist when it comes to her health. And it almost seems like they wanted that to happen.
Yeah, but they're trotting out the doctor that Will Smith played in Concussion to say that he believes she was poisoned by the Russians. And yet we're the conspiracy theorists. This is in the Boston Globe from yesterday or something like that, and he's tweeting about it. He's very insistent that it's probably the Russians and they poisoned her.
Tell the truth.
Yes.
Right. I think we've seen what Russian poisoning does to people. They usually turn green and their skin falls off. But no, I also found it interesting that the media is ignoring that Obama's doctor is saying that she should be getting a neurologist. Has been saying for months that she needs a neurological exam due to her concussion from years ago, especially at the point where she's using it as an excuse when it comes to her emails and receiving training on classified information. She's sitting there saying, well, I can't recall, and that part of that is due to her concussion from 2012. Well, like, I'm sorry. If you're not able to remember things now because of a concussion that happened years ago, maybe there's something else going wrong, and maybe there's really is a problem there.
No.
And maybe that's a problem for being president if you can't remember things.
No. Because she listens to experts like her doctors when they tell her what she should be doing.
She just doesn't remember.
Right.
Because she bumped her head.
It's truly stunning. I cannot wait for this debate now.
Yeah.
But you have to wonder how soon they're going to be coming up with excuses as to why she can't do it.
Yeah, that pneumonia is coming back. I loved one of my favorite memes from it. This whole thing was after the article came out that, like, half her campaign also had pneumonia.
Yes.
Like, all of them in the Brooklyn. Even, like, Robbie Mook had pneumonia. Like, they all did. Some of them, Jennifer Palmieri, like, was in the hospital for this infection. And it's like, I feel like these people are big enough to where that might have gotten reported at some, honestly, right? Like, if Steve Bannon goes to the hospital, it's going to be everywhere, right? Like, if back in the day, if Lewandowski had gone to the hospital, like, it would have been reported if it were Trump. So it does seem a little odd. Maybe it's just the double standard that Clinton gets as a Democrat, that, these things don't get reported. I feel like if it had been Trump's people, they going to the hospital for any reason, it would have been somewhere.
Well, you think that they have an obligation to tell the people that are traveling with them about this?
Yeah, that I have a disease that has killed before.
Yeah.
But I think one of my favorite memes to come out of it was the photo of, Spartacus. And it's like, I have pneumonia. I have pneumonia. I have, like, all of them, like, trying to stand with her and just be like, no, we all have it.
Well, I think it's quite telling,
but this
too,
just seems so pointless. It's like, so you're, like, how does that help? How does that help dissuade the fear that she's out there infecting people by saying that, yeah, we were all infected?
Well, and then it makes it worse, too, that you've got younger staffers who had pneumonia who went to the hospital.
Right.
But she wouldn't go to the hospital because she's too scared that it'll affect her political career.
Well, why do you guys act like they didn't bring in the hospital basically to Chelsea's? Honestly.
Just playing with her grandchildren.
Right.
So I'm not sure what they did. There was also something written that I saw today, just briefly, that her and Bill Clinton had like a serious fight over whether she should go to the hospital or not.
Ooh.
Which makes me like Bill a little bit more. Where it's like, Bill was like, you need to go to the hospital. Like, seriously. And that she got so angry because it can't hurt her campaign. It can't stop her campaign. And it's just that, what was it, Kate McKinnon, the parody of Hillary Clinton on SNL, just seems like, this seems like ripe for it, where it's like, no, I can't stop the campaign, where she could basically be like Walking Dead. And it's like, no, have to campaign. I have to be president. You know, like.
And
this should have been mine 8 years ago, and I could actually stand up.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's Bill saying, no, go to Bellevue.
Yeah.
Go to Bellevue.
But, I mean, he wants her to win as much as she does, I would assume, at this point.
Got to get those White House interns, you know.
But now is
Gotta
SNL...
see what 2016 will bring.
Is SNL back this week? Because I know South Park is back this week, which is going to be huge.
They're going to do... their first target is Colin Kaepernick.
Yep.
It's going to be great. And that's the thing that like has always been so great about South Park, is that it's so easy to make those episodes that they can be so topical. Whereas like The Simpsons or Family Guy, where it takes a year to make a single episode, it's like, they can't be as topical. And yet somehow sometimes they predict big problems, oddly, but they can't usually comment on exactly what's happening that week.
Right. Follow Ashe on Twitter at Ashe Schow, and of course you could check all of her work out at the New York Observer and the Washington Examiner. Ashe, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, talk to you then.
And that's it for this week. I want to thank Ashe Schow, and I also want to thank our good friend Paul Croteau, who provides the music for the Enough Already podcast. Check out his website, yopaulymusic.com. Tracy, where can everyone find the Enough Already podcast?
Well, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. You can also find us on Facebook at Enough Already Podcast and at EnoughAlreadyPodcast.com.
All right. Thanks for listening. Oh,
you know what? You can also find all of us on Twitter.
That's right.
He's at Fingers Malloy. I'm at Tracy L. Connors. And Ashe is at Ashe Schow.
Check us all out. Follow us. Tweet at us. And go to iTunes. Leave a review. 5-star review, Tracy Connors.
I think we deserve it.
Okay. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.